Welcome to EP Daily. Today on the show, we've got superheroes and Star Wars in the rundown. Go figure.
Plus, I knew it was hot in here. We go on a hot pursuit with Reese Witherspoon.
I am her lover.
What?
We had a little fight, but I'm sure you know whose fault it was.
And then we review Arnold's zombie movie, Maggie.
No, don't. No, please.
Go home. Just go home.
Also coming up, we take a look at game loading Rise of the Indies. Scott enters the battle with Bear versus Art, and much more today on EP Daily. Brought to you by EB Games. I'm your host, Victor Lucas, bringing you the latest in everything cool every single day. It seems like Star Wars and superheroes are everywhere these days, but you know where they belong, right here in the Rundown. There's been a disturbance in the Force, and a Star Wars film is looking for a new director. Fantastic Four and Chronicle director Josh Trank is no longer helming one of the Star Wars anthology spin-off films. Trank was set to collaborate on the film with X-Men Days of Future Past and Star Wars Rebels writer and producer Simon Kinberg, who also worked with Trank on the upcoming Fantastic Four reboot, a film that has been struggling with poor word of mouth. And one superhero movie that doesn't need to worry about poor word of mouth is the Avengers Age of Ultron. Marvel's new superhero extravaganza earned $187 million during its opening weekend in North America. That's the second biggest opening of all time, just a little behind the #1 record holder, the first Avengers movie. And a little ahead of the film in third place, Iron Man 3. Yes, the 3 fastest grossing movies of all time were made by Marvel. The studio currently plans to release 11 new movies over the next 5 years. The next new one is Ant-Man, which arrives this July. Truly a disturbance in the Force. Here to help me talk about our big stories in the rundown is my pal Marissa Roberto. Josh Trank, I feel like he's getting thrown under the bus a little bit, don't you?
First of all, I just want to point out this. I did not know that we were going to be talking Star Wars today, and yet I wore my Star Wars shirt.
What are the chances
What are the
that
chances?
we're going to talk about Star Wars?
I know, that never happens on this show. But Josh Trank, I mean, this guy, first of all, is really young. He's got a whole career ahead of him.
Yep.
I do feel bad. I don't know what happened, though. We don't know the story.
I think Fantastic Four is not going to be a very good movie. I think that's what's happening, and word is getting out, and I think Lucasfilm is nervous. And
I mean, we've talked about this before, how some trailers reveal a lot, reveal the whole story almost, and I feel like the trailer for Fantastic Four almost reveals... No, but even the last one that I just saw, I feel like, okay, I know exactly what the story is going to be and where it's going to go, because they just paint the whole story for you right in the beginning. There's no mystery behind it.
Well, it's mysterious in the way that he's interpreting the comic book characters, because it's a different, origin story. We're talking about Fantastic Four, not Star Wars, but it's a different origin story than what we've known for the books and the previous Fantastic Four movies. We'll see. I loved Chronicle. I still am a fan of Josh Trank. I feel bad that he's going through all of this stuff, but, the Star Wars folks know what they're doing.
Hey, Josh, you are young and the world is wide, and there will be plenty of, I think, amazing stuff in front of him. I think he's going to be okay.
I think he's going to be okay, and he still did get to collaborate on some of the development of that film. Now, the thing that everybody is still buzzing about and will be for most of this year, I would imagine, is the Avengers and its success at box office, although a little less than the $200+ million that was bandied about.
I don't even know if that's anything to do with the fact that the movie doesn't quite hold a candle to the first one. It almost does. It's almost there. But I think it's just there's less people going to movies now. There's less people putting bums in seats and paying for that ticket. So
more saturation of superheroes as well. I think that there could be a little fatiguing. That's we're at the beginning stages of, and it's me saying that. So, and I'm not fatigued. Bring it on. I'm excited.
We want more Avengers, more Marvel.
But I think it's amazing that Marvel has the top 3, and if that's an indication that there are a lot of superhero movies to come even outside of Marvel, what other proof do you need right there?
You're doing something right.
Yes.
But you know who else seems to be doing something right? This Reese Witherspoon. She's getting into the hot and heavies with Hot Pursuit. Nothing to do with video games.
Oh, okay.
Officer Cooper, who stands at 4 feet 11 inches.
Oh, come on.
The other suspect, a 45-year-old Latina woman.
This movie is about 2 women who could not be more opposite, from completely different universes, different cultures, different backgrounds, who have to go on this crazy journey to get from San Antonio to Dallas in a certain time period. And I play a very by-the-book Southern cop who is very nervous because this is a big assignment for her to get to escort this female witness to Dallas, and the female witness is played by Sofia Vergara.
We need to get clothes. Yes.
Who is vivacious and full of life and is very reluctant to go to Dallas. So my character has to drag her kicking and screaming to any location. And so it creates a lot of really funny dynamics.
Mrs. Reba, I am a police officer.
Ay, please, look at you. You're teeny tiny. You're like a little dog that I can put in my purse. The story of this movie is about Daniela Riva, who is my character, and Reese Witherspoon's character, who is Officer Cooper. And Daniela has to be taken to witness protection program, and Officer Cooper is supposed to drag her to where she's supposed to be. And things happen along the way, and they end up having like this road trip from hell. I am her lover.
What?
We had a little fight, but I'm sure you know whose fault it was.
I read a lot of different versions of my scene, but I love the idea of the position of authority that is within these three people and the hijinks that can occur and the humor coming out of the situation. There's a lot of funny moments, but I also like the journey of the movie and how Cooper, Reese's character, evolves, and I think there's something really endearing about that. I think that's important in a movie where people evolve and grow.
Kind of like your smile.
I'm not smiling.
Well, then I got something to look forward to.
Watching Sophia and Reese riff and understand about the verbal comedy that those two can just spar with, it's exceptional, you know, it's incredibly encouraging. There's very often in this industry you'll meet people that you admire and they never quite live up to it, you know what I mean? But Reese never drops a beat, ever. She never gets anything wrong. Even when she'll like be improvising stuff, it sounds real and genuine and it's always funny.
What is that white thing?
Oh, that's my underwear.
It's no underwear, that's a diaper.
I like a lot of coverage.
Sophia, I don't know if it's intentional, but she's a comedic god. She comes out with things that are just beyond the line of hilarity that you just can't believe that she must have come up with that by mistake. And the two of them riffing off each other, it's been incredibly inspiring because it's not a genre that I'm familiar with or experienced with, but these two really, really are.
Nice police work, Mr. Sherlock Holmes. Nice.
It's real fun to play, too, with the culture clash. It's something that you don't get to do very often in movies, and I was really excited to do this movie.
What the heck is this white stuff?
Baking powder. We're bikers. Toast, muffin, cake.
I feel like I've learned a lot, too, working with Sophia, and it's been a big education for me. She helps me understand her culture.
It drives me crazy the way you talk.
And I try to help her understand my culture. That's actually a really great aspect of this movie, and I really hope the film brings people together in that way. You can celebrate the idea that you're from different worlds, but ultimately, friendship is universal.
Veo la hora de verte tras rejas.
You speak Spanish.
Cállate tu boca.
Gringa chiquitica.
Boca muy gorda.
Ladies, I like the way you work.
Me too. We've got a new documentary about indie games after the break. Should you watch it or should you just go back to playing more Braid? We'll let you know after the break.
Talk about it so that when you get covered, people can buy it. That's a sort of a short-sighted way to look at it. You really want to talk about the game as much as you can, as much as people are willing to hear the story.
Welcome back to EP Daily. In case you've been living under a rock.
Or you've been down in Vic's basement for the last 1,000 years.
Right, that. Indie games have been a huge part of the industry for a long time now.
And you know what? Indie Game, the movie, was terrific. And now we've got a new film that's ready for its close-up. It's called Game Loading, Rise of the Indies.
Here are the boys with the review.
Talk about it so that when you get covered, people can buy it. That's a sort of a short-sighted way to look at it. You really want to talk about the game as much as you can, as much as people are willing to hear the story.
A couple of years back, there was a pretty terrific movie called Indie Game, the movie, and now we get another video game movie. There have been a couple over the last couple of years.
Thing, yeah.
This one is called Game Loading. I didn't know anything about this. I sat down to watch it last night. Believe it or not, I watched it via Steam.
Yeah.
Had some technical problems, but that's between me and Steam.
Yeah.
This movie is about the indie game scene, which seems to be growing exponentially every time we go to another conference.
Yeah.
I just got back from the Game Developers Conference, at this point a few months ago.
Yeah.
The IGF, the indie game part of the GDC, is getting bigger and bigger all the time. Who are the people in there at the IGF? It's these people.
Yes, I know, and it's part of the democratization of all of these digital tools that people have around the world. People have aspired to make games. Now they have them, all the information and engine technology, all of that stuff is readily available, as is lamented by many of the old pioneers of game making. You see Tom Hall in there. You see lots of faces from really big, huge titles, like from the Intellivision days to the Doom days. A lot of pioneers are featured in this documentary, which I think was very thoroughly researched. John Romero has a big part in this. Thoroughly researched, and I found it incredibly fascinating, mostly because this is a world that we don't get to see that often. It definitely strikes me how young everybody is in this thing. This is the next emerging generation of game developers out there, but also the hunger that these developers have to create something more emotional, more personal, more unique. Yeah. And I think they've done a pretty good job, the filmmakers, at capturing the passion, you know, and letting us see inside the minds of these really articulate and fun people.
You know, I'm personal friends with Victor Lucas, who has been part of the video game industry for 42 years. And so it's hard not to sit down when you watch this kind of documentary and feel a little bit of vanity, because you're not looking for yourself necessarily as you're watching, but you're looking for people who you know. And I got to be honest with you, I know John Romero. I'm not personal friends with him, but I really didn't know any of the game makers at all, and I don't feel like I ever really got to know them over the course of the film. I don't really feel that this is necessarily better than what Indie Game the movie did. I think they had the same subject matter, they had the same field of people to pull from, and I think Indie Game, every step of the way, and I'm sorry to be talking about another movie, not this one, but they made better choices. They chose better people. I feel like the filmmaking is better, and the storytelling is better. I feel like there are some important moments here, but it takes so long to get to those important moments. I mean, there are the guys who had their game Ridiculous Fishing, which was cloned by somebody else.
Yep, that's wrong.
And I felt a little heartbreak there for those people. I thought, why not tell that story sooner? That pulled me more into the film. There weren't enough of those kinds of stories.
Well, what I liked about this is that they did go in a different direction than Indie Game the movie and talked more about the movement. Almost gave us a sense of where things have gone since a pretty big phenomenon like Indie Game the movie shone a spotlight on something that had been unexplored before, and it feels like it is accelerating. I mean, and there's even a fantastic sequence of a train jam where you get to see a bunch of really young developers riding a train for hours and hours, building a game along the way, and you get to see the exhaustion and the exaltation in coming up with ideas and building things together.
And I gotta say something, and you're probably gonna fire me again after I say this, but this made me dislike indie games more than I ever have before.
Why?
It didn't really pull me into it. I felt like all of these people, I just want to punch in the neck. I just feel like, why are they there? Why do we not see them working jobs? Do they all? I don't even know where they're getting money to make these things. They're riding this train from, I don't know where, Chicago to San Francisco. They look so entitled. Let me see them working their day jobs and then making this game at night.
All right, so you hated game loading,
I think
Rise
it's
of the
terrible.
Indies.
Go rewatch Indie Game.
What are you
going
to give it?
Again, I'm giving this a 3. Turn away.
I'm giving this an 8 out of 10. I think it's very solid and fascinating
You
stuff.
disgust me once again.
Ooh, it seems like you and Vic kind of got into it there.
Sometimes we go at it like hammer and tongs. In fact, last week on Vic's Basement, we all went at it. You got involved too.
Yeah, sometimes I like to get involved.
Testing, very testing.
But listen, Arnold Schwarzenegger is starring in a new zombie movie, and we've got that after this.
Daddy, it's a girl.
EP's mobile coverage is brought to you by GameLoft, makers of Dragon Mania Legends, which you can play for free right now.
Pocket time again, everybody. Today I'm taking a look at the new game for the iPhone and/or your Android device called Bears vs. Art. This game is from Half-Brick. Now, Half-Brick, of course, made the infamous Jetpack Joyride, so these are some people who know how to have fun. Here, you're playing as a bear who's inside an art gallery in the woods. The object of the game is to get the bear moving in the right direction towards the paintings. Once you arrive at one of the paintings, this is going to sound ridiculous, but the bear destroys the paintings. You actually have to scratch back and forth on the screen. Each of the paintings has its own title. Some of the titles are very funny. Obviously, they're making a little bit of fun of the art world. One title in particular that I can remember was the Bara Lisa. So it's not the Mona Lisa, it's the Bara Lisa. So there's some fun, some satire here, and some pretty interesting strategy gameplay. Bears versus Art. This is one of the most interesting and weirdest game titles I've played in a long time. I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10.
Of course, everyone knows that bears hate art. Derps! Moving right along, zombies are an imaginary blight on our planet for now, but if anyone can give zombies a beatdown, it's Arnold. Here's me and Vic with a review of Maggie.
I made a promise to your mother that I will protect you.
Yeah, but what about you guys?
Our old friend Arnold Schwarzenegger is acting once again. This is a movie called Maggie. I heard about this a few months back. We talked about it on EP Daily. It's here. It's not in theaters. It's in video on demand.
I wonder if it's going to be in select theaters because it stars one of the biggest movie stars the world has ever seen.
After having seen this movie, I think you have your answer.
Yeah. It looks like The Last of Us, which I think is kind of the thing that attracts us to wanting to see
in the
this.
plus column.
But it also looks like The Last of Us, and it looks like the writers said, hey, this game is pretty good. Let's see if we can make a movie that's just like
The Last of Us also had action sequences in it.
Keep going. Find your way out of here. Come on.
And you've got Arnold Schwarzenegger in this, one of the biggest action movie stars of all time, if not the biggest.
Yes.
And there's not enough action in here. And I think if you're putting Arnold Schwarzenegger plus zombies, you expect some action.
Yeah, and this is crazy because he kind of plays it like it's a character drama, you know? He's just a father that's watching his daughter slowly over the 90-minute running time turn into a zombie, which is interesting, dramatic material.
It's an interesting premise, for sure.
But we've seen that every episode of The Walking Dead, and kind of imagine a world that doesn't exist in 2015 is ridiculous. And the way that we get to understand the characters and the arcs and the different threats in The Walking Dead is just so much more maturely positioned and distributed to us. And Schwarzenegger is a magnetic human being. It's fun watching this guy, but we're never going to think, oh my God, look at this Oscar caliber performance we're seeing from Arnold Schwarzenegger. I mean, I'm sorry, Mr. Schwarzenegger, you're amazing, but you know, it's cool you can cry.
This is one of the
I needed to see it.
rare moments on this show when Vic and I are absolutely in agreement.
Yeah.
This is how it used to be before we started having beef.
Daddy, that's my girl.
You can't not see him as a distraction, especially in a movie that's aspiring to be quiet. This is a movie that keeps programming in, has all these scenes that are kind of designed to be the opposite of what you might find in a typical Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, a typical zombie movie.
I mean, this could have been an interesting tone poem. I think that
tone poem.
The meditation on turning into a zombie and watching a family member transform into something horrific like that could have been interesting.
But at this stage in his career, is he capable of being in a movie like this? I don't think he can do a quiet
to sell
movie.
tickets. It seems like stunt casting. It seems like, maybe he wants the challenge of trying to have this emotional beat. It's interesting to watch him as a father.
And he's an older man than he's playing here in the movie. He's probably in his 40s or 50s here, and he's in that range, a little bit older though.
He's almost 70.
He still looks good.
Yeah.
Sometimes his Austrian accent kind of comes and goes over the course of the film. Sometimes he has more of just a traditional American accent.
Yeah.
And watching him struggle against this stuff just looks really uncomfortable. I feel like there's an interesting movie here, but I feel like without Schwarzenegger, this might have been more easy to watch.
But we wouldn't have heard about it because there's so much zombie stuff. The zombie milieu is very covered right now.
I'll be fine.
I think Abigail Breslin does a pretty good job under all the makeup.
Yeah,
and
not great.
We get to see some connection to her high school friends and stuff like that. But
and I like the way that the film doesn't over-explain everything.
Yeah.
So, certainly you don't know who this woman is, who he's living with, who her kids are. You kind of have to solve those emotional arithmetic problems in the film on your own. I like that the film lets you do that.
It's very ambiguous.
And I didn't mind the ambiguity, but I couldn't turn away from Schwarzenegger. It's like having Pavarotti up there trying to sing an opera and then having, I don't know, like a big rock star get up and play a guitar solo.
Well, it's the same thing when we watch The Rock try to play an everyman as well. When you have giant superhero Popeye arms and Schwarzenegger's still built like that, you expect him to go punch and stuff, and he doesn't really even get into any of that stuff.
He just kind of whispers his dialogue. He looks uncomfortable. I feel bad for him. I hope he had fun doing this. I'm going to give this a 4 out of 10. What about you?
4.5.
Oh, wow.
Disappointing.
Get my daughter to the chopper. Listen, watch Maggie if you dare. But coming up after the break, it is our Twitter question of the day after this.
If you want more EP, go to our website, epn.tv, for bonus content and full episodes. We're also on Facebook and Twitter. Welcome back to EP Daily. It is time for everybody's favorite part of the show. It's called the Twitter question of the day, and we've got one for you. This one's from Chelsea Bellick at The Bellick, and asking, you think video games evolved to a point where we realize our life has just been a video game that we've been playing all along? Holy crow, deep thoughts.
Wow.
Do you know something we don't know?
Yeah, did you take that one colored pill? I can never remember which one it is. Is it the red or is it it's the red, right?
Maybe both, purple.
Okay. Did you take a purple pill? I guess so. I guess life is a game if you really want to think of it that way. There's a lot of games you need to play. It's like a chess match.
Can't get through life without play, right?
No, you got to play. So I suppose you and I are playing the game of life.
Yeah.
And just trying to enjoy.
Right now we're trying to play at giving a good answer to this very mysterious question.
I don't know where to go with this, to be honest. I don't know if we should go all the way in the deep end or just kind of wait around.
Well, I tell you where we should go. Somebody should write the script for that movie or TV show or video game, and we'll review it right here on EP Daily. You can get caught up on all kinds of fun segments and reviews at epn.tv.
We got more coming for you in the next episode of EP Daily, including a look at The Witcher 3.
Thanks for watching.
Bye.
EP would like to thank its sponsors, Nintendo, Xbox.
Welcome, traveler. Drink with me, you.
Now you can have a crossbow if you want. You can utilize bombs, items, potions, you name it. You also have these spells called signs, and they're like combat spells. You can level them up. You can level up pretty much anything you want, depending on what you're really good at.